the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is freezing here in Chicago on Moving Mountain Day and J Lunch Club. So grateful that our weekly series, Moving Mountain Mondays, includes Ernest Krim III, an Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, anti-racist educator, hate crime victor who uses Black historical narratives to empower and educate through a culturally equitable lens. Mr. Krim is a South Side of Chicago native and University of Urbana-Champaign graduate, former high school history educator of 12 years who now also advocates for social justice issues and teaches Black history to the world through social media, a platform that reaches roughly 4 million people each month as of 2024. As such, he has created content for companies such as HBO, Hulu, Disney, Paramount, the History Channel, Additionally, he is the CEO of Crims Cultural Consulting, LLC, an international speaker who's spoken at Harvard University, the University of Chicago, Microsoft, Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights Camp, and audiences in the United Kingdom and Canada, and author of 2 books and passionate about progressive educational causes. I'm particularly honored that Ernest Krim is our very special guest and regular communicator and participant on Monday mornings, or Monday afternoons, if you will, on the J Lunch Club. Hey, Ernest, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hey, what's up, my brother? It's good to be back here with you. It's been so much going on. I know we got a lot to discuss.
Hey, why don't we pick up on some of the issues that are going on? Why don't we start there? I was looking at the news a few moments ago and found a GOP senator has now decided to buck the Trump administration. I received that text message from you earlier saying, hey, we need to deal with this. He says that Obamacare is putting America first. Ernest, your thoughts?
It's unbelievable because it's unbelievable because the first thing that pops up in my mind, because I was reading an article this morning about this was actually a white guy right outside of Nashville, and he was talking about how he had to essentially get rid of his health care because the premiums went up. And he and his wife lost a job in December. So they were kind of struggling and just essentially hoping that they didn't get sick and wouldn't need it because they couldn't afford the extra $70 a month now. I'm not sure how they voted. I don't think that's important right now to the conversation, but we do know that Tennessee, of course, is a red state. But as I was reflecting on that, I couldn't help but think about a student I once had, maybe 10, 11 some odd years ago, and I talk about this in my book. And this was a white kid from a surrounding town that was very conservative. He was the minority in the school in his racial group and as well as his political ideology. And this kid was 16 years old, and he absolutely hated Obama and everything he stood for. He hated Obamacare. And as a good teacher, I would often engage him in conversations to try to really pinpoint, I knew why he felt that way, right? But I wanted him to be able to provide proof. And he never could. So when I think about where we are now in this country, I'm reflecting on, I wonder where this young man is. And him being in a, lower middle class environment, I'm assuming he may, this 1% of the population probably doesn't have to deal with this as a concern. And I'm thinking he's just like every other American, and we need healthcare. We need something that's affordable, not the Obamacare Act, the Affordable Care Act. And I think we're at a point now where so many people are being humbled to realize that this is actually what we should have been supporting the whole time. But the actions of 10 years ago, my point in bringing this up has led to where we are right now, at a point where now we have some GOP senators and congressmen saying, hey, you know what? We actually do need this. And we just have to hope that it's not too late.
The article in Politico says this GOP senator says reviving Obamacare subsidies would be putting America first. If the Senate is going to strike a deal to revive a signature Democratic policy, it will be in part because of an unlikely broker, a freshman Republican from the party's MAGA wing. Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio is on paper an odd fit in the core of about a dozen senators in talks to extend Obamacare credits that lapsed on January 1st. Most are well-known bipartisan deal makers, such as Republican Susan Collins and Democrat Jeanne Shaheen. Moreno, on the other hand, joined the Senate a year ago. And as President Donald Trump anointed loyalist who had just defeated longtime Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown with hardline attacks focused mainly on immigration, but he has a key asset, a close relationship with Trump, who will need to bless or at least tacitly accept any agreement to smooth its passage through Congress. I think the political reality, Brother Krim, of it's an election year, people are calling their members of Congress's office, their senators' offices, their premiums are exploding through the roof. And, well, many of these Republican senators and congressmen are going to have to come to Jesus.
Yeah, and we have to hope that they stay there, metaphorically stay in the church, and we have to hope that if they don't, then people don't elect them again. With him being this bold, he might not be a returning senator. He might, this 6 years might be it for him. But I hope that during that time, because he switched sides apparently, I hope during his time of realizing he needs to put America first, as he is now, presumably, that we actually get the change that we desire. And who would have thought that a black man who made his career in Chicago, when he became the president, was actually putting Americans first and not the current president, who's a white guy who people would assume based on his background and talking points. Wow.
Amazing. A lot of people are feeling the heat right through this election year. I might add, when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580, we're going to turn our attention to the 1-year anniversary of the Haitian earthquake, where more than 300,000 Haitian people lost their lives. And we're going to deal with a little bit of that, because this is the time that the United States Agency for International Development, which Trump dismantled, would be working its way to Haiti to provide goodwill to the people of that great country. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 with Ernest Krim.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's game day. Are your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keeping you from the action? Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, could help you get back to the game. Skyrizi is proven to help people feel significant symptom relief, achieve remission, and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine for adults. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or ulcerative colitis.
Control is everything to me.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's and ulcerative colitis combined. Learn more at skyrizi.com or 1-866-SKYRIZI.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me: how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. J Lunch Club. Professor Ernest Krim, our very special contributor on Mondays in the classroom with Mr. Ernest Krim. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, what's up, brother? Thanks again for having me.
Always a pleasure, brother. Listen, 16 years ago today, Haiti suffered one of the most devastating earthquakes in the history of our hemisphere, and it killed nearly 300,000 people. Haiti is still recovering from that quake. Mr. Krim?
You know, when I hear about this, it's hard to believe it's been that long. I recall actually being in my first year of teaching, actually on the south side of Chicago. And I found out about this. And I think a lot of the question that a lot of my students had, of course, during that time was, well, why, for what, not about the earthquake, but why was there so much poverty there? And I was upset that I did not learn about the historical context of why Haiti was so impoverished and why they are still fighting to this day to repair their country. Many folks might not know. For one, they're also celebrating their Independence Day this month, which I think is very coincidental. And also, too, when they gained independence after defeating France and becoming an independent state, defeating a global superpower and eradicating slavery from their country, they were punished for that. They were placed in debt, not just by France, but various other European colonial powers, including America, who refused to acknowledge that they were, in fact, independent. They didn't want that news to get to America because they knew that it would inspire other Black folks to do something similar. So we have to always remember Haiti within that historical context, because Haiti and what they did there also had an impact on what we would do 50, 60 some odd years later. They impacted the entire world of African people in the diaspora on that small island on the Western hemisphere of that island. When I reflect now, I think, again, within that context, that Haiti cannot be repaired until these colonial powers repair them, provide them with reparations the way that they are deserving. And without that, we cannot properly equip them of what they need to be doing moving forward. You also have to think about what Trump is doing right now. To me, it's a blatant attack, not just on the island of the people who are there currently, but the people who are here presently, ending the TPS, temporary protection status, of all the Haitians who are here. And again, we have to remember, when we talk about what ICE is doing, when we talk about immigrants, I know we are a small percentage of those folks, but there are Black folks in the diaspora, including not just the continent of Africa, but in Haiti, folks who have come here for a better life and who have been contributing to this economy of ours, who are being targeted by this president as well. So to me, it's all connected. The way we are treating Haitians who have come here for protection is the same way that we continue to mistreat Haitians on the island right now.
You know, I find your point to be brilliant. The point that movements, for example, Haitian liberation, impacted other movements around the world for liberation. Just as our civil rights movement, Nelson Mandela, when he emerged from prison in South Africa, said that he was inspired in his 27-year prison ordeal to fight for democracy within South Africa, and that white Afrikaners could exist as a minority under a constitution, just like minorities have existed under the United States Constitution. But to the point that no matter how small the country is, or even how small the liberation movement is, the idea of freedom and liberation actually extends and inspires other groups within other countries around the world. And Haiti is one of those shining examples.
Yeah, movements are magnetic. And when we come across information like that, that's why knowledge is so powerful. When we talk about history, we're not talking about these old books. We're talking about stories that we can connect to. So if you were to come across this information, let's say if you were privileged enough to be able to read in the 1800s as a Black person on this landmass, then you would then compare that to your situation and say, well, what can we then do, right? There's no coincidence that we had liberation movements around New Orleans at this time, rebellions that were quelled because they were inspired by that. It's no coincidence that we had Nat Turner and we had David Walker's book, which was banned, or even 30 some odd years after that, Harriet Beecher Stowe, a white woman who spoke out against slavery, whose book was banned. Because when you read that information, you begin to say, well, if they did it, then why can't we? Or if they went through that, that kind of sounds very similar. And look, these lines from history are not a straight line. We're all over the place with this, but we cannot disconnect the fact that not only did they deal with that earthquake, but they are still struggling to repair with what happened with them being placed in debt for gaining freedom. That is the most ludicrous thing when you truly think about it. That's the equivalent of, and we know what our ancestors had to deal with here with the debt slavery we were placed in, the tenant farming and sharecropping. I mean, that's bad enough, but imagine being forced to pay as a group of people in this country after the Civil War billions of dollars to your government. That is how they've operated all across the world. And that's why claims for reparations here, which are old in demand, are also important, because if something like that happens here, not just in a city, not just in a town, not just in a village, not just in a state, but across the country, then that inspires other people across the country, across the world, the same way we were inspired by that island. And for us to truly get the justice that we deserve here, we also have to support our brothers and sisters in Haiti, because if they don't get it there, then who's to say we can ever get it here?
What comes to mind is the name Francois Dominique Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint Louverture was a Haitian general and the most prominent leader of the Haitian Revolution. During his life, Louverture was first fought and allied with Spanish forces against Saint Dominique royalists, then joined with Republican France, becoming governor general for life of Saint Dominique, and lastly fought against Bonaparte's Republican troops. That's right, Toussaint Louverture defeated Napoleon Bonaparte. As a revolutionary leader, Louverture displayed military and political acumen that helped transform the fledgling slave rebellion into a revolutionary movement. We ought to make the distinction, Ernest, between a slave rebellion and a movement that continued after the rebellion, demanding total, complete liberation of a people. Along with Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Louverture is known as one of the fathers of Haiti. I also understand, my mother often shares with me, that it was the Haitians who joined the American Revolution on the side of the founding fathers of our republic in the effort to fight the British. Imagine that. A black, free country gave troops to the United States of America in order to continue the struggle for liberation, not just in Haiti, but throughout the United States. And it's somewhat amazing that at Haiti's most desperate need in their history, the United States of America, the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, can't find the time or the resources to help Haiti during this critical time.
You know, we don't even have Chicago without a Haitian man. Du Sable, or as I've heard some people pronounce Jean Point du Sable. We don't have this to exercise my broken French a little bit. we don't have what we know as Chicago, a man who, now this is what I'm gonna give y'all for the folks that's listening across the country in LA and everything. I want y'all to understand, because I know in LA their history, is often overshadowed as well. If you can imagine, in Chicago, there was only a small bust to commemorate the man who was the first permanent resident of this, what became Chicago, of course, outside of our indigenous brothers and sisters, like a very small bus. And you have to go by the Chicago River. If y'all come visit, you'll see that in comparison to, like, we have George Washington, Christopher Columbus statues and stuff, like, who have nothing to do with this landmass, right? And I think what to me is pivotal about it for us to understand is they know that if a group of black people are allowed to live freely without these systemic barriers, that for one, it leads to us creating what we've always wanted to create, things like Black Wall Street, Bronzeville in Chicago, and places like that, right? Harlem, New York, right? But it also inspires others to say, we can do that same thing. So it's also, to me, metaphorical that they would put that foot down and keep that foot on their neck so that the world could see And the assumption without context, right? When I was in my first year of teaching, I had to give my kids context that I had not even had yet. The assumption is Black people who are impoverished around the world are that way because they simply did not work hard enough, or that because there's something wrong with them. When I speak to kids, and I should say audiences too, when I speak to educators, I bring up this question. I say, do you believe that the gaps we see in literacy and math is the result of our children, a result of their destiny, or a result of the design of the system? If you believe that it is the result of the destiny of our kids, then you believe inherently in anti-Blackness. And for us as a community too, we have to reflect on that. The poverty we see in Haiti, the poverty we see in some places in Africa is not a result of who we are. It's a result of a system that has practiced the most unheard of violence known to man globally in the past 500 years.
You know, I find it interesting because when you look at the chronology, the role that the Haitian Revolution plays, and it's a slave rebellion and then a revolutionary period, inspires the American Revolution, but the Haitian Revolution also inspires Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, which led to the Cuban Revolution and obviously the Cuban Missile Crisis, which also led to revolutionary movements in Venezuela, in Mexico, in Panama, in other parts of South America, largely inspired by the slave rebellion and then revolutionary movements to determine self-determination and to determine their own fate in South America. And I know we only have a couple of minutes before we come forward, but I think it's kind of fascinating, speaking of Venezuela, that Donald Trump and the oil companies are in a dispute right now over the kind of crude that comes out of Venezuela. Now, this crude is not like the kind that we see on the Beverly Hillbillies, where Jed took a shotgun and blew a hole in is trying to shoot a rabbit, and some bubbling crude came out. Venezuelan crude is thicker than Murray's grease. Some of you all who still use Murray's hair grease know exactly how thick it is, and it requires additional refinement. First of all, you got to get it out of the earth, which isn't just like bubbling crude that comes up through a drill and a pipe and then is loaded on a tanker or into a refinery and then onto a tanker. This stuff is so thick, it's like asphalt. And so all the oil companies are now saying, you know what, we appreciate what you've done, Mr. Trump, which they shouldn't appreciate, trying to steal these people's oil. It turns out to be so thick and so costly to refine that the oil companies are saying that we don't want it. How about that, Mr. Krim?
I think it's very symbolic. It's very profound because I think it begs the question: all of that for what? And I think that's the question we have to ask about this whole thing. You did all of this for what? You gonna suffer too? You know, it's like
the same government that they took Maduro from is still running the country of Venezuela. Ideologically, it's the same party, it's the same underlings of Maduro still running the country because they have a revolutionary spirit that is against being occupied or colonialized by any foreign power. And they got that from the Haitians and the Jamaicans and the Cubans and others who insisted upon the liberation and freedom of their people. They got that spirit in the latter half of the 20th century from the freedom movement here in the United States, just as Mandela got the same freedom movement and spirit from the United States during his 27-year period of incarceration. For the Krim?
Movements are magnetic, and that entire Latin American hemisphere is still bubbling. You know, like our people, oppressed people, cannot be stopped for long. You know, you cannot remove somebody and think that is not going to impact the way they view your country. It's an attempt to show strength, but it's really an obvious display of weakness.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the J Lunch Club, Moving Mountain Mondays, our first hour, Mr. Krim's Classroom. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. About 16,000 nurses are on strike in New York City over pay, demanding a 40% raise, a request hospitals like Mount Sinai and New York Presbyterian call unrealistic.
The nurses united will never be defeated! The nurses united will never be defeated!
The hospitals say patient care will continue with travel nurses, while Governor Kathy Hochul has declared a disaster emergency. Muhammad Ali is being honored with his own U.S. postal stamp this week. The USPS will hold a first day of issue event Thursday in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. The stamp features a black and white photo of Ali in his iconic boxing pose, and it's available for pre-order now. And Sean Diddy Combs reportedly sold his private jet just before being sentenced to 50 months in prison on prostitution charges. Silver Air says the sale happened in October 2025. Diddy's attorneys have not commented. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Keep your radar up on probable changes coming with the Chargers, especially on offense. The Chargers have lost 3 straight first-round games in the playoffs. The Chargers' last playoff win was in the 2018 season at Baltimore. In 2 playoff games with head coach Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers have scored a combined 15 points, just 3 field goals and 1 touchdown. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman should get a head start on updating his resume. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites over the Chicago Bears. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is dealing with a sprained finger on his throwing hand. He said he's going to play Sunday in Chicago. Top 5 women's college basketball teams in this week's top 25 rankings: UConn, South Carolina, 15-1 UCLA, Texas, and Vanderbilt. UCLA moved up a spot from 4th to 3rd. USC, which has lost 3 straight, dropped out of the top 25. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa, whoa.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of the utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
It all comes down to this, folks. Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part, they accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right. So we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
Looking for something new? Try fencing, the Olympic and Paralympic sport that mixes speed, strategy, and fun. It's like chess meets cardio. Quick feet, quick decisions, and a satisfying beat when you score a point. Kids, teens, and adults can start anytime. No experience needed, and many clubs have loaner gear. Coaches teach fundamentals and safety from day one. Find a beginner class near you at usafencing.org/tryfencing. That's usafencing.org/tryfencing.
Picture this, you're on a date and then bad breath happens. Confidence gone. Here's the truth. Most gums and mints are just bad breath Band-Aids, but not Zellman's Minty Mouth. The functional breath freshener you swallow. Tiny dual action capsules with mint on the outside, parsley seed oil inside, clinically tested to fight the toughest offenders, even garlic and onions. It's only available online. Go to Zellmans.com, Zelmins, Zellmans.com, code FRESH for 15% off.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the classroom with Ernest Krim on Moving Mountain Mondays in the J Lunch Club. Ernest, welcome forward to Mr. Krim's classroom.
Hey, what's up, brother? Thanks again for having me.
Her name, Ernest, is Lisa Donnell Cook, born in 1964, an American economist who was sworn in as a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors in 2022. She is the first Black woman to sit on the board. Before her appointment to the Federal Reserve Board, she was elected in January of 2022 to the board of directors of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Donald Trump has done everything in his power to get rid of her, but the breaking news in the country is that because he cannot control Federal Reserve Board Chairman Jerome Powell, the president and the Department of Justice has now authorized, I believe there is a sitting grand jury, to look into the construction of the Federal Reserve building, and their target is now the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. I'm convinced that America will never be the same again, that all of the cultural norms, all of the legal norms have been broken. Ernest, the consequences of the president of the United States being able to dictate interest rates for the United States and world financial systems is nothing short of extraordinary.
Yeah, I think that first thing we should extract from this is, for one, you have to understand that coming from any of our circumstances, whether we are Black Americans historically or folks who have come in from a different country, we have had to overcome insurmountable odds to get to that point. So she is exceptional, but she would be shown as if she was simply a DEI hire, which we know that is incorrect and fallacious. The second thing I get from that too is we have to remember and understand that those who operate under this mindset and belief of white supremacy, we know that is an ideology, a belief is not something you're born with. They would be willing to sacrifice. And we're seeing this in real time, so this shouldn't be a surprise, but I want us to really see this and understand that what's happening is they would be willing to sacrifice the country, the republic, so that we couldn't all have equitable access to the things that we need and desire and should have in this country. The Federal Reserve controls our interest rates. They can influence inflation, right? We're talking they can shape our employment conditions. We're talking about an impact on housing, student loans, small businesses,
credit cards,
right? How we acquire wealth as a whole. As long as he's good, which again, that's really a misnomer. That in the long run, he won't be. But as long as he appears to be good financially, he could care less about the rest of us. And again, now that we're talking about going back to what we first discussed with some of the GOP coming on board and saying, yo, we need to actually keep this healthcare, we have to all be wondering, is it too little too late? because the vast majority of people who will be impacted numerically will be white folks. And we know a majority of them voted for this right here. We know he shouldn't be allowed to do that, but he doesn't care. He's going to find, he acts first and validates it later. And he's going to find someone in a position of power that's completely fine with it. Unfortunately, most often the Supreme Court.
I find it fascinating also in terms of breaking the historical norms that just last week, before the government issued an official labor report that, of course, impacts the stock market, consumer confidence, how people feel about the economy, he tweeted the numbers on his personal account before the government released the numbers, which, of course, on Fat Meat Fridays, Gina Towns suggested this is some kind of insider trading scheme. And Bishop Tolton, who has an MBA from Vassar College, Bishop Tolton was really clear. Follow the money. Look at the members of Congress, members of the Senate, and members of the administration who made trades either before or after the president's announcement, before the official statistics were released by the government. Ernest, your thoughts on having powerful and important friends in high places?
You know, it amazes me. You know, somebody, while we were on break, I was watching a video on TikTok, and somebody said, this educator was like, you know how disturbing it is that the news cycle has mostly moved on to what happened to Maduro. And it's not like there isn't a justifiable reason why, because there's just so much happening. But like, you know, 20, 30 years ago, we would have sat with something for an entire week. I say that to say it is unbelievable the amount and the degree to which they keep us on this hamster wheel with so much information. It does all matter. But by the time you pay attention to something like this, they're on to the next thing. And having that access to power makes it that much more pivotal to us. And when I see these tweets or whatever it is, I think it's on the Truth Social app or whatever, I think what also is disturbing to me is the fact that I understand and know, especially if you know how like politicians operate and stuff, they don't most often even manage their social media accounts. This stuff goes through filters. There are people who like, he might say he wants to post it. It's not a good idea. And the team still does it. Or sometimes, which is even more alarming, it's probably their idea too. To go along with something like this. And in that case, it really is an inside job. They're all colluding to aggregate what they presume to be power. But again, just, you know, I'm reminded oftentimes when I see things like, you know, the climate issues in LA, or how in Chicago on a random January it's 60 degrees. Like, the climate don't lie. Like, it's that type of stuff. That's my metaphor for like, this stuff is going to impact us all. And it's only so much you can do to avoid it.
While the news cycle has moved on from the capture of Maduro, it has not moved on in Chicago from the Bears versus the Packers.
Rightfully so.
This is going to be a long cycle, my brother. Ernest, your thoughts. I know that we have just about 1 minute, 2 minutes before we come forward. Are you sensing any shifting in terms of voter enthusiasm for the midterm elections?
I am. I'm sensing a shift, but here's again what worries me. Just like I said about the news cycle, it could last for a day. It could last for a couple months, right? We need to, like, in some ways, we need to keep track of all of the stories that are triggering Americans to come to their senses, right? And not because we want to trigger people, but because we know, okay, this is what has resonated with folks that has already been impacting us, but now on a high degree. And we need to say, once it's election season, we have to go revisit them. There, as an educator, what I hate too is understanding that, because I would often, we prepare for final exams, I got to go back. If the final exam is December, I might have to go back to October. Kids forgot it, but that's still important to what you understand in December. So by the time it's election season, October, November, we got to go back to what's happening right now and say, don't forget this happened. Don't forget this happened. I don't want to keep talking to people in Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. I know we do that naturally, but we're talking, look, humanity, people, everybody. This is what's happening to you in this moment. He don't discriminate against who he discriminates against. And poor white folks, y'all are feeling it more than anybody because of your numbers. Will you wake up finally?
We have not much time before we come forward, but I do want to comment on this. And I find it interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it in the next segment. That Bill Gates has now said that he has set a time limit on when the United States and the world will enter into a new dark age. The definition of what Bill Gates means by a dark age could certainly take us back to the dark ages on the prehistory before the United States. Very, very difficult times and periods for the idea of civilization. But I think it's a cautionary tale. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. My very special guest and regular contributor, Mr. Ernest Krim, Mr. Krim's Classroom, on Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. You're listening to the J Lunch Club. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That fun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bell Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Febreze.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and the J Lunch Club. Ernest Crim's Classroom on Moving Mountain Mondays. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, what's up, brother? Good to be back with you.
Hey, as much as I want to pick up on what we ended on in the last segment, I do want to raise this question because you're such a brilliant historian. As you know, we did earn some civil rights protections coming out of slavery in first Reconstruction. The first civil rights acts of the United States were offered during a number of those legislative sessions and produced some minimal progress for the freedmen. And then from Brown versus the Board of Education to the present, we've issued and offered many, many civil rights acts. The 1964 Civil Rights Act being chief amongst them, but the Americans with Disabilities Act is a civil rights act. Protections for the LGBTQ community are Civil Rights Act. Extending protections for women is a form of civil rights. Roe v. Wade is an extension of the idea of civil rights, women having the right to make decisions about their own bodies. So the forms and the ways in which civil rights have presented themselves not just for Blacks who were denied access to buses, lunch counters, water fountains, and classrooms, but civil rights has really transformed the idea of democracy itself. Here's what Donald Trump says recently. Trump says civil rights led to white people being treated very badly. Ernest, help us with this.
You gotta give me some time to laugh sometimes. I need like a 5-second buffer. But it's not funny because it's really it impacts us, right? Because at one point in time, this was just commentary from a rich guy from New York, right? But now it has political, social, economic consequences. It's what's hurts me again as a former classroom teacher is he speaks at a level that is so easily digestible that if you are emotional, you connect with it without any critical thinking. Because if you are a white person who has never been exposed to the Black community, you went to your like little segregated school in the middle of Kentucky somewhere, or maybe in West Virginia, an Appalachian area, and you think that we're the problem, and you hear that, you're like, yeah, that's not fair because no. And I know I'm not saying white folks haven't dealt with poverty. We know the class issues in this country. But what he's alluded to with that is white people deserve to have racial privileges. And when I say privileges, I mean economic benefits as a result of violence, systemic violence, physical violence, psychological violence. These are, I don't even know if we can call them dog whistles anymore, man. I don't know what these are like. I mean, this is over the intercom for everybody to hear. It's no longer a dog whistle. It's a referee whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, again, so I said this recently when I was talking to a group of kids. After revolts happened, particularly in 1739 with the Stonewall Rebellion, they would ban a variety of things. Black folks couldn't meet in person together without permission, and but I also wanted to pinpoint the fact that they would ban firearms, yeah, but they would also again ban knowledge, right? and think about that being on the same level. To most people, they would assume, oh well, no, like that weapon is more valuable. But why would they repeatedly in every generation, not just back then, not just 1739, but 2026, still seek to ban that same thing? Not just for us Black folks, but for everybody else. So you don't have historical context to call out that foolishness. The fact that white folks have had all of these social benefits
forever
is the reason why a mediocre white guy like him could become the leader of this country and put us in a dangerous position like this.
You're preaching now, brother. Hey, let me throw this out at you. There has been no history since the inception of the United States that white men or white people have been discriminated against. There is no history that their civil rights have ever been violated. There's just no history of that. And I find it particularly puzzling that the President of the United States is now, and the Department of Justice is willing to bring lawsuits, civil lawsuits, for white men who can claim that they've been discriminated against by these laws. And that, my friends, really, really does turn the idea of the American experiment on its head. Ernest, before we get to your word of hope, share with our listeners a little bit about your books and share with us how we can stay in touch with you on your various social media handles.
Definitely. So my most recent book is How Black History Can Save Your Life. It is essentially the second edition of Black History Saved My Life. It's going to give you practical tools on how to use our history in a proactive way, told from a first person narrative of how I discovered who I was after dealing with the hate crime and various other issues of racism from the time I was in first grade to the present day. The book was re-released last year, and I can promise you, with everything we're dealing with now, if it's not explicitly connected to what we're talking about now, there are some indirect connections because these things happen in cycles. And in the effort to be able to give these lessons to our children, I wrote a book called The ABCs of Affirming Black Children. You'll find that one of the most prominent parts of the first part of my book is the way I was affirmed. We have to affirm Black children, especially with a sense of somebodyness and worthiness, so that they can realize they are the solution to the problems we face in this world today. You all can follow me on all social medias with a slight caveat for the time being. I unfortunately have to say that my Meta pages were banned and disabled as of yesterday, and I'm trying to work to get those resolved right now. Somebody hacked my account, and Meta thinks I'm the one posting a lot of craziness on my platforms, and it's not me. So if anybody's listening and they know somebody at Meta, please hit me up. Until that gets restored, I am on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Substack. Please subscribe to my newsletter. Put in my name, Ernest Krim III. You'll find me there. I'm still here.
Ernest, about 1 minute and 45 seconds for a word of hope.
I think the thing I'll take away from our conversation today is movements are magnetic. So we have to continue to study, especially with Dr. King's holiday coming up. Every year when we get around this day, I like to reread a lot of his works and his speeches, and I'm always inspired, but I'm also perturbed because I feel like the more the years pass by and I read, the more I realize how much we have not realized, not just his dream, but just the practicality of it all. Read, and find a way to apply it, because movements and books and those thoughts are magnetic.
I've been listening to and reading over and over and over again Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech on April 4th, I think it was, April 4th, 1967, from the Riverside Church. Those of you who can hear my voice, it's called Beyond Vietnam. Beyond Vietnam. Later this week, I will share with you the subject matter that I will be addressing at a number of events for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and I look forward to sharing it right here on KBLA as soon as my thoughts are completed and prepared. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Ernest, thanks for being on the program today.
Thanks again for having me, brother. Look forward to next week.
Coming up next, Reverend Dr. Terry Horwood Owens, the President and General Minister of the United Disciples of Christ Church. She is our regular contributor. She is the General Minister and President of a multiracial denomination, a rarity in the United States. She's our very special regular contributor on Moving Mountain Mondays. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. About 16,000 nurses are on strike in New York City over pay, demanding a 40% raise, a request hospitals like Mount Sinai and New York Presbyterian call unrealistic. The hospitals say patient care will continue with travel nurses, while Governor Kathy Hochul has declared a disaster emergency. Muhammad Ali is being honored with his own U.S. postal stamp this week. The USPS will hold a first day of issue event Thursday in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. The stamp features a black and white photo of Ali in his iconic boxing pose, and it's available for pre-order now. And Sean Diddy Combs reportedly sold his private jet just before being sentenced to 50 months in prison on prostitution charges. Silver Air says the sale happened in October 2025. Diddy's attorneys have not commented. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Keep your radar up on probable changes coming with the Chargers, especially on offense. The Chargers have lost 3 straight first-round games in the playoffs. The Chargers' last playoff win was in the 2018 season at Baltimore. In 2 playoff games with head coach Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers have scored a combined 15 points. Just 3 field goals and 1 touchdown. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman should get a head start on updating his resume. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites over the Chicago Bears. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is dealing with a sprained finger on his throwing hand. He said he's going to play Sunday in Chicago. Top 5 women's college basketball teams in this week's top 25 rankings: UConn, South Carolina, 15-1 UCLA, Texas, and Vanderbilt. UCLA moved up a spot from 4th to 3rd. USC, which has lost 3 straight, dropped out of the top 25. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me: how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Moving Mountain Mondays with none other than Reverend Terry Horde Owens, General Minister and President of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada, an author and advocate for the church living out its calling. She is the first person of color and second woman to lead the denomination. Since her election in 2017, Reverend Howard Owens' ministry actively reflects the disciples' priority of being an anti-racist church, being a movement for wholeness, welcoming all to the Lord's table as God has welcomed us. In keeping with the disciples' historic commitment to Christian unity, she serves in leadership at the National Council of Churches as the treasurer of the governing board and a member of the World Council of Churches Central Committee. Madam President, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and to your show, The Faith Not the Fall, on Moving Mountain Mondays.
Good afternoon, sir. Good to be with you.
It's always a pleasure, Madam President. Some really interesting news coming out of the Gates Foundation. Bill Gates has set a timeline and a time limit on the United States and the world within the next 5 years entering into a dark age.
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine the Dark Ages was a very, very difficult period for Christianity, for theology, and for world religious systems. Madam President, your thoughts on the prediction of Bill Gates?
Sadly, I think there is far too much truth in it. His own efforts have, for example, really reduced the threat of malaria in parts of the world that are underdeveloped economically. USAID, people talk about it being a form of soft power. It was one of the key agencies that our church's ministries worked with around the world. And it may have been December of 23, I guess it was. I spent a day in DC actually working with a lot of faith-based organizations and folks from USAID, kind of doing some lobbying around worldwide aid to Haiti, Sudan, Ethiopia, so many places where we are seeing children literally starving to death, where very simple things like a peanut paste, right? That just a few licks of that would be able to help nourish babies around the world. We do not prioritize being kind and saving the lives of humans around the world unless there is some sort of economic benefit to the United States. We talked last week about how, Marco Rubio even said, this is about America's interests first, and then the people of Venezuela. So we are willing to let people around the world die. Children in particular will be most impacted if the United States can't see its own economic interests being privileged. We've gone from understanding that our humanity to other humankind is one of the ways that we can even project and promote our own influence, to saying it's not worth the money. We need to send bombs and planes and ICE agents in order to establish who we are, and we no longer care about what's happening. I don't think we're too far from it.
Madam President, when you think about the 250-year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and of course, the magnificent words Martin Luther King Jr. referred to, penmanship of Thomas Jefferson, that all men are created equal. And of course, Elizabeth Cady Stanton amends that language to say all men and women are created equal. And you look at the, if you will, the zenith of the American experiment with all that it's been through. Maybe the zenith is from 1954 to the election of Barack Obama. And now we're already talking about a dark age. I'm wondering in this moment, is a dark age avoidable, or is it, from your perspective, inevitable?
I don't think it's inevitable, but it will require a lot of us, a lot that we're really not used to giving. It will require a kind of coalescence, different kinds of coalitions than we're used to building, both those that have served us well in the past, but but new kinds of coalitions. And it will require even the courage, I think, particularly of corporate interests. Bill Gates has been amazingly silent about the evil that we've been seeing coming out of the Trump administration. And he will talk about this impact of money around the world. But if he and other corporate leaders were to coalesce and to say that what we stand for, even as economic engines in this country, is that we want to have positive impacts on the communities that we serve. We want to have positive impacts on the communities around the world, because it's self-serving, really, to want a healthy world in order to build healthy world markets. But I don't see corporations being strong enough to come and say that. We have to shake up a lot of church folk, a lot of people of faith in all traditions who are afraid to speak out, saying, oh, the church shouldn't be involved in politics. We've got to build coalitions in a way we've never built them before.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is Moving Mountain Mondays and the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens. More coming forward on KBLA Talk 1580 with the President and General Minister of the Christian Church, the Disciples of Christ in the United States and Canada. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's game day. Are your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keeping you from the action? Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, could help you get back to the game. Skyrizi is proven to help people feel significant symptom relief, achieve remission, and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine for adults. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or ulcerative colitis.
Control is everything to me.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's and ulcerative colitis combined. Learn more at skyrizi.com or 1-866-SKYRIZI.
Looking for something new? Try fencing, the Olympic and Paralympic sport that mixes speed, strategy, and fun. It's like chess meets cardio. Quick feet, quick decisions, and a satisfying beat when you score a point. Kids, teens, and adults can start anytime. No experience needed, and many clubs have loaner gear. Coaches teach fundamentals and safety from day one. Find a beginner class near you at usafencing.org/tryfencing. That's usafencing.org/tryfencing.
Picture this, you're on a date and then bad breath happens. Confidence gone. Here's the truth. Most gums and mints are just bad breath Band-Aids, but not Zellman's Minty Mouth. The functional breath freshener you swallow. Tiny dual action capsules with mint on the outside, parsley seed oil inside, clinically tested to fight the toughest offenders, even garlic and onions. It's only available online. Go to Zellmans.com, Zelmins, Zellmans.com, code FRESH for 15% off.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Madam President, Reverend Terry Hoard Owens, the President and General Minister of the Disciples of Christ Church here in the United States and in Canada, is our very special contributing host during this period. Madam President, welcome forward to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's always good to be here.
Madam President, I don't think there's a person with a bigger heart in the philanthropic community than Bill Gates. He just gave his wife an additional $8 billion to her private philanthropic foundation, in large measure because he is particularly proud and excited about the resources that she has been providing to historically Black colleges and universities, and making Mrs. Gates's foundation one of the premier funding mechanisms for Black education, Black college, and advancement, not only in the United States, but quite frankly, in the history of the world. Your thoughts on this season of giving, particularly in light of the Doge cuts and an administration that seems to be turning its back on its historical commitments to overcome negative action against minorities?
I'm thrilled with not only Melinda Gates, but also for her ability to leverage that divorce to get what she needed. There was a line in that old movie, The First Wives Club, where Ivana Trump has just divorced Donald Trump, and she's telling these women in the movie what to do. She says, "Don't get even, get everything." And I feel that Melinda Gates here, she didn't get everything, but she got what she needed and what her focus was on. And of course, what she's already done with HBCU contributions is certainly stellar, building up not only the sustainability of those institutions, but reinforcing the notion that those institutions are legitimate educational institutions in our country and are necessary to a healthy society. And Bill learned about philanthropy from Warren Buffett, who apparently just recently retired, I think, last week. And Warren is giving away, most of his wealth. Scott, what's her name? Melinda Scott, Jeff Bezos's ex-wife, also has been making huge gifts with the settlements and the money that she's obtained in the divorces. So we don't have enough capacity, I don't think. And as I tell people all the time, the faith community cannot fill these gaps. We don't have that kind of capacity. And maybe multiple Bill Gateses might come close to doing this. But again, we've got to have coalitions and courageous people. Statistics tell us there are more billionaires than ever before, but where are their priorities? Are they building ultra mega yachts the way Jeff Bezos is doing? Or what are they doing with their money? How are they focusing their bounty for the good of others, which really serves us all? We've lost that sense of my pastor in Indianapolis used to say, Lord, make me rich so I can bless somebody. And I promise you, if I were rich, that's exactly what I would do. But we've lost those values that would say, let me take what I have because God has blessed me, allow me to be a blessing. And even if you don't have a faith perspective, just the idea of sharing and doing what is good for your common humanity. If we had more billionaires, the fact that you can give away $8 billion and still be okay, that's just amazing. It wouldn't take that much to replace a lot of what's happening with Doge. But if more of these people have these kinds of priorities, we could do it. The faith community, churches doing what they can in their neighborhoods, it's just not enough.
You know, in the civil religion of the United States, I see paying taxes as a form of tithing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard for me to let the entire burden for all that's wrong in society to be left to any 501c3, let alone multi-billion-dollar 501c3s. And I'm not suggesting or knocking that they're not doing good work. If Melinda Gates called me tomorrow, I'd set up a black college. Yes, I'd be very grateful.
And you could do that well, sir. You could do that well.
Or point her in the direction of some that need to be funded. But to my point, when I pay my taxes, you know, I expect the government to feed hungry people with it.
Correct.
I mean, you know, Warnock says that a vote is a kind of prayer that we cast for the world that we want to build. But that's the way I see taxes. I see taxes as a form of paying it forward, building good schools, teaching children multiple languages. My contribution to civilization are the taxes that I pay. I did not pay, and maybe we should find a way to designate what is in where my tax dollar goes. For example, I did not want my tax dollars to build the Gerald R. Ford U.S. aircraft carrier, the largest in the world and presently in the Caribbean. I'd like my money to go towards providing for the least of these and people who don't have much. And so increasingly, we are relying upon the private sector to do what government of, for, and by the people is supposed to do to keep our country civilized. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And the reason that our budgets are in such great deficits, federal budgets, is because the wealthy and ultra wealthy are not paying their fair share. We have enough in this country, as you say all the time, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. If everyone pays their share, their proportionate share, we have enough so that people can earn jobs that allow them to provide for their families, that allow them to live in housing that's safe and clean and comfortable, warm in the winter, cold in the summer, to send children to public schools that don't vary in terms of resources based on your zip code. You know, I have a family member who lived in Northbrook, and they took their child out of a Christian school and put them in a public school. And it was like, oh my goodness, Northbrook, here we are. Every child gets a Chromebook. Every child, public school is great. I said, public school depends on where you live. It's wonderful in Northbrook, but take a neighborhood in Inglewood, 60628 zip code. I hear these days they may get Chromebooks, but they don't have all the science facilities. They don't have the books. They can't pay the teachers that they need. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul every time we turn around. And other neighborhoods, the kids are it's an embarrassment of riches. That's not what this country was built on, they say, right? So I'm always saying, let's be who we say we are. Let's be the church we say we are. Let's be the country we say we are. But everybody should be paying their fair share, and if nothing else, to see it as a return for the opportunities that you say, oh, everybody can make it in the United States. Well, for those opportunities, you owe it back to the society to make sure that everyone else has those same opportunities.
Madam President, speaking of opportunities, just a few months ago, or a little less than a month ago, we saw 8 Democrats essentially bolt the Democratic Party to end the government shutdown, to the dismay of the resistance movement in the United States to ensure that the Affordable Care Act would not be sidelined. An interesting coalition of Democrats and Republicans came together to pass the Affordable Care Act in the House of Representatives with a 3-year extension this past week. And now we have GOP senators reviving Obamacare subsidies and calling it putting America first. Ernest Krim in the last hour said, what a difference a day makes. Madam President,
Yeah.
your thought on the new movement amongst Republicans and where you think the heat is coming from.
I think the heat is coming from their constituents. Long ago, when people were lobbying and advocating against, I call it the horrible, awful bill, not the big, beautiful bill, the horrible, awful bill. Statistics tell us that by the numbers, first of all, there are more people on Medicaid than there are Black people. It's the percentage of Black people on Medicaid that draws the attention. But there are more people in red states who are being hurt by the removal of these subsidies and this ridiculous exponential increase in healthcare premiums. And I think it is their own people who are finally getting through to them to help them understand that this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's not a right or a left issue. This is a matter of right versus wrong and people being able to have health care. Because if people can't go to the doctor, people are paying thousands of dollars in premium and can't go to the doctor, can't get their medication. I mean, if I didn't have health care, I'm a diabetic. I wouldn't be able to afford the medication that I have to take if I had to just pay it out of my own pocket. Insulin, some forms of insulin cost $1,000 a month without. And as much as people talk about Ozempic for weight loss, that drug was initially approved for diabetics, and you couldn't get it because people who could pay the $1,000 for weight loss were getting it. But we've really got to listen, and the people have to start speaking up. And I think that's what's happened with some of these GOP senators who are finally hearing and paying attention. I heard Ernest say in the first hour, it is the Affordable Care Act. They called it Obamacare in order to try to denigrate it, but it's the Affordable Care Act. And if there are issues with it, then they've never offered a solution as much as they've tried to destroy it. They haven't offered anything to make it better. Healthcare insurance in this country was designed as a force for good. It was never designed to create profit for health insurance companies. And having spent some time with the Blue Cross Blue Shield system, I repent, because there was a time when I would get bonuses. Healthcare, I was there during that time when Blue Cross went from being a nonprofit to a for-profit enterprise all across the country, with Anthem being the initiator of consolidating a lot of these Blue Cross plans and moving towards for-profit. We've got to also not just pass laws for subsidies. We got to do some tough work. And again, this is what's going to call for some courageous corporate citizens to understand we got to change the healthcare system in order to make it affordable for the American people. It should not be the case that people are making billions and billions of dollars on the backs of people who can't afford to go to their doctor.
I was reflecting upon the work that I did while I was in Congress, and I did this Google search. And I'm encouraging those who can hear my voice to do this Google search right now. If you ask Google the right question, AI will actually provide a fairly fascinating answer. This is the question I want you to ask Google. What is the difference between Jesse Jackson Jr.'s constitutional right for health care of equal high quality for all Americans and the Affordable Care Act and the single-payer healthcare system? What is the difference between Jesse Jackson Jr.'s constitutional amendment guaranteeing every American the right to health care of equal high quality and the Affordable Care Act and the single-payer healthcare system? When you hear the answer, you're going to be baffled by what Democrats and Republicans have ultimately been doing by calling both of these things rights when in fact they are not. The answer will be, I think, nothing less than astounding for those of you who have time to just Google search that. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are moving this mountain on Monday, the faith not to fall, with Reverend Dr. Terry Hoard Owens, the president and general minister of the Disciples of Christ Church. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward with Terry Hordowens.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry says there's a deep mistrust of federal agencies following last week's deadly ICE shooting.
There is deep mistrust because so many of the things that we are hearing are not true.
Speaking on NBC's Meet the Press, Fry called for state agencies to join the investigation as protests continue over the death of 37-year-old Renee Good and local leaders dispute the federal version of events. President Trump is criticizing the Civil Rights Act of 1964, saying it led to white people, quote, being very badly treated, end quote, and caused reverse discrimination. He pointed to the Supreme Court's 2023 affirmative action ruling to defend his stance. And Tiana Taylor made history at the 83rd Annual Golden Globe Awards, winning Best Supporting Actress for One Battle After Another. In her speech, she shared an empowering message about self-worth and representation for women of color. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Keep your radar up on probable changes coming with the Chargers, especially on offense. The Chargers have lost 3 straight first-round games in the playoffs. The Chargers' last playoff win was in the 2018 season at Baltimore. In 2 playoff games with head coach Jim Harbaugh, the Chargers have scored a combined 15 points, just 3 field goals and 1 touchdown. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman should get a head start on updating his resume. The Rams are 3.5-point favorites over the Chicago Bears. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is dealing with a sprained finger on his throwing hand. He said he's going to play Sunday in Chicago. Top 5 women's college basketball teams in this week's top 25 rankings: UConn, South Carolina, 15-1 UCLA, Texas, and Vanderbilt. UCLA moved up a spot from 4th to 3rd. USC, which has lost 3 straight, dropped out of the top 25. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me: how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Unwrap LA this winter with Metro. Whether you're heading to a family gathering or last-minute shopping, Metro's got you. Enjoy free rides across Metro on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Move with joy. Move with community this holiday season. Go Metro.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on this, the 16th anniversary of the earthquake in Haiti, where more than 300,000 people perished. Our hearts, our minds, our bodies, our soul, and our pocketbooks should continue to support all of these organizations that are doing the work on the ground in Haiti in this, the 16th anniversary of the most devastating earthquake in the country's history. Before the break, and before I bring our very special contributor back on, I asked the question, what is the difference between Jesse Jackson Jr.'s constitutional right to health care of equal high quality and the Affordable Care Act and the single-payer healthcare system? And this is what artificial intelligence says. The primary difference is that Jesse Jackson Jr.'s proposal was for a constitutional amendment that would guarantee health care as a fundamental, enforceable right, while the Affordable Care Act is a federal statute that uses market mechanisms to expand health insurance access, and a single-payer system is a specific funding model for universal health care that is not currently in the law in the United States. The Jackson proposed amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which stated that all persons shall enjoy the right to health care of equal high quality, was never passed. If ratified, it would establish health care as a fundamental, inalienable human right, placing an affirmative obligation on the government to ensure its provision, potentially overriding state laws and making equal high quality a legal standard. It aimed to create permanent foundation guarantee that transcends political changes, Democrats, Republicans, and various Congresses and legislative acts. And lastly, but not limited, in essence, Jackson Jr.'s proposal was about establishing an unquestionable legal foundation for healthcare as a right, while the ACA is just a law that increases access to insurance, and a single-payer system is a funding mechanism for universal coverage. Democrats and Republicans both have been missing the point. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and this is The Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Dr. Terry Hord Owens on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, the J Lunch Club program. Reverend Owens, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you. And I just, I entered that Google search and got a very similar answer. This is perhaps the human rights issue of the next decade. Seriously, I just know too much about the workings of healthcare insurance, and I, having worked with it, lived with it, helped prosecute fraud in it, etc. There's just too much that we need to do, and I think guaranteeing that right with a constitutional amendment is exactly the step that we need to take. The United States remains the only quote unquote developed country in the world that does not have some kind of comprehensive single payer system, and it's my grandma used to call things that she thought were just incompetent, evil, bad. She would just say it's pitiful, and I hear Grandma Jessie saying right now it's pitiful. It's just pitiful.
I think we're going to have a surprise guest on the show in just a few moments to comment on some thoughts about Haiti. But before we get to that guest, I did want to ask you the question about Donald Trump's efforts to remove the Federal Reserve Board chairman. And as you know, that impacts mortgages, it impacts credit cards, it impacts loans, it impacts everything disproportionately for women, particularly African American women, but certainly for the poor in our nation. Payday lending, it impacts every single interest rate known to our system. Your concern, Madam President, about the idea that the Federal Reserve Board could end up being compromised under the Trump regime?
My concern is that we know that Trump's concerns are not for ordinary people. He seeks to enrich banks and other financial institutions who, as we saw with the financial crisis that Barack Obama had inherited, part of the problem was lack of accountability. I was glad to see Mr. Powell in the news today putting out a statement and a video and indicating that he doesn't intend to remain silent. The longer that corporate and economic interests are complicit, either vocally or silently, we stand in with the real possibility that our systems of accountability, which is required in a democracy, we can't have rights and liberties without balancing that with accountability to one another in the broader society. So that's my concern, and that's my fear. But I am grateful to see that Mr. Powell has come to understand that being silent is not right now the diplomatic or appropriate thing to do. Right now, if you believe in anything, if you believe in these rules and these norms in the law, the rule of law and the Constitution, you must speak up or you will be complicit with their destruction.
Our very special guest during this show is now Millie Phaeton. Millie is a Jesse Jackson Jr. show, #1 contributor from Haiti on the ground. Millie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great, thank you, Millie. Millie, we have about 3 minutes before we come forward. Can you share with us how the people of Haiti are handling this 16th anniversary since the devastating earthquake?
Yeah, it's always a bittersweet time. Obviously, it was definitely a devastating time for the Haitian diaspora, just everywhere across the world. Like Haitians are spread across the world, so we remember it every January 12th, especially in light of all that's still happening in Haiti today with the gang taking over Port-au-Prince. So we're fighting to get our country back to what it once was, a place where Haitians all over and really just all kind of cultures came and enjoyed our country. It's a beautiful country if you haven't been. There's still parts of Haiti that are very safe to go to. So I encourage everybody to visit places like Cape Haitian, which is the second largest city in Haiti outside of Port-au-Prince. Still very much a city that is welcoming nations and festivals happening all the time. But we're fighting to get the capital back to what it once was.
Millie, you went to Haiti in 2010 during that period. Can you share with us what you saw? We have about just 2 minutes before we come forward.
Yeah, just devastations. I mean, all over, almost, close to 300,000 lives lost, about 1 million people displaced. So just a devastating sight to see, especially again in a city that was so vibrant at one time. But I got to spend about 3 months there just trying to meet the needs of the people which the biggest needs was tents and stuff at the time. And so, we continue to try to send resources because obviously it's still a lot of people that are displaced now, and in light of the gang activity that's been happening.
We have about a minute and 30 seconds before we come forward. Madam President, do you have a question of Millie Phaeton?
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, perhaps ask how best can organizations like mine, I lead a multiracial denomination, Disciples of Christ, and we partner with a lot of ministries there on the ground. How best can people of faith continue to support? Are there certain organizations you recommend or not recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best organizations is Hope for Haiti. You can find them, online. And then there's another organization led by Dr. Bertrude. You can find her online too, and I can send the links to the show. Those are the two go-to that I always send people to. They've been vetted. They've been just long-standing supports and stuff on the ground in Haiti, way before the earthquake happened and stuff. So those are the two that I always send people to.
Millie, I hope you'll stay with us. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're getting a report from the ground in Haiti. I know that Millie is probably here in the United States at this point, but more on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward on the 16th anniversary of the earthquake in Haiti that killed nearly 300,000 people.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Febreze. New Febreze Air Mist has 50% more odor fighters and up to 30% more fragrance than the old formula. So now you can take on 100% more stinky odors, like sweaty gym bags, greasy cooking smells, and the after effects of the dog rolling around in something. Just spray, and new Febreze Air instantly restores just clean freshness. Smell you later, odor. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Every morning, we rise and shine, make breakfast, and brush away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day off right. Nature-Made vitamins are a simple step in that daily care regimen. Multivitamins with daily essentials, clinically studied probiotics for gut health support, magnesium to help relax the body. Nature-Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is the Faith Not the Fall with Reverend Terry Howard Owens. Reverend Owens, we have Millie Faton, our Haitian contributor, just for another moment or two. Maybe you have another question you'd like to ask me.
Sure. Can you educate us on what's happening with Haitians and TPS? What's been the impact of that? And are there other ways in which we can engage in advocacy to change that situation?
Yeah, that TPS protection is said to be expiring in February. So, the biggest resource has been attorneys who are trained.
Millie, you're breaking up just a little bit.
So that's the biggest resource that we need. So, we're asking our community to,
Millie, I think we have a bad connection, so I'm going to have to disconnect Millie. But I think she said that one of the biggest challenges that she has had and that they have had is with the temporary protective status. Did you want to expound upon that, Madam President?
Yeah, and I think I heard her say that legal resources are one of the biggest needs. And I think organizations that have access to legal resources that can make them available. We, for example, have in our denomination an immigration attorney who was there to assist persons to at least help them triage their case. They can't handle the full legal workload, but I do encourage nonprofits who provide legal assistance in the immigration space not to forget Haitians and other populations, particularly Haitians, who that TPS status has been in place for so many years. After 15, 16 years, it's hard to imagine some folks going back, but legal support for folks to help them navigate an increasingly complex immigration system is going to be really important. And I know that organizations like ours will continue to advocate that TPS status is not removed from the Haitian population. Looked like Millie popped back in there for a second.
She did for just a moment. I think you're right. That's one of the great human rights issues of our day. And when one considers the history of what the Haitian people did for the United States, for the United States to not be for them at their hour of need, and it has been 16 years since their hour of need, is nothing short of astounding. And it's also a signal, I think, Madam President, of the decline of our civilization as well. We have not been a good neighbor.
Yeah. We have not been a good neighbor, and we are now explicitly naming countries where Black and brown people are in the majority, which is most of the world, actually, as S-hole countries. We're more willing, not that there's anything wrong with the wars that are happening in Ukraine and Russia. We're more concerned about Europe than we are about countries in Africa, in the Caribbean, that have been exploited for their natural resources. I watched a little of the hearing or meeting, I guess, that Trump was having with oil executives, and it just really sickened you to hear conversations about what they were ready to bring in and what they were ready to do, and this charade of, we're going to sell the oil. The Venezuelan people are still going to have access to those profits. They are going to make a lot of money, and that's at the heart of these issues. Can I still make money off of Haiti? If not, I'm not concerned. Can I still make money off of Sudan? If not, we don't have economic interests human interests we're not as concerned about. And that's been the big shift of the Trump administration, to take the U.S. away from its marginal. I mean, USAID was major, but we've always had to fight to make the United States accountable for human rights around the world. But at least that's what we said we were, and we tried to do some of that work. And now we're just like, well, we don't care, and that's okay. It's just not okay. We're going to pay a huge price across the world for our failure to be true to who we say we are.
Madam President, our producer has just shared with us that she has a clip from the Golden Globes that she'd like to play right now.
Disrespect invites disrespect. Violence incites violence. When the powerful use their position to bully others, we all lose. It was that moment when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity to fight back. It kind of broke my heart when I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie. It was real life. And this instinct to humiliate, when it's modeled by someone in the public platform, by someone powerful, it filters down into everybody's life because it kind of gives permission for other people to do the same thing.
Madam President, we have about 4 minutes before the end of our show. Your word.
You know, I have seen, I remember even watching Meryl Streep. She said that people in power giving permission to violate norms, to violate human rights, to use language, to just simply not care anymore. We're seeing all across our country language and actions. You know, people are saying the quiet part out loud. Racism had for many years, at least you couldn't say certain things. You couldn't openly believe or declare your belief for certain things. And now it's okay. You don't have to be in hushed rooms or say them in quiet text to one another. It's okay to say it out loud. And we're spouting off scripture, but we're practicing hate. And we're cloaking it all in some form of perverted, what people are claiming is Christianity, but violates everything that Jesus ever taught. That, as a Christian minister, is the most vile part of this, is that the way in which people are behaving, they're out of one half of their mouth spewing hate and disregard for one another, and out of the other side of the mouth claiming to be Christian, holding Bibles upside down, and standing with I'm not sure who these people are or who these ministers are that would lay hands on Trump and claim that he's a messenger from God. It's sickening. It really is, because it's just not right, and we have to be able to call these things and name what they are. And they're foul. They're evil. I have y'all have to pray for me in these last of 5 years of my term. I've got a lot of people in my church who agree with what Trump is doing. And we have denominations like mine. We, in my perusal or trolling, if you will, of social media while I'm on sabbatical, we did sign off on a joint letter between the United Church of Christ and Disciples of Christ opposing what happened in Venezuela. And there was all kinds of comments. The church should not be involved in politics. This is political. I don't know what's become of our denomination. This leadership is taking us down the wrong path. There were lots of people in support of it, but there are still people who believe that being Christian means being silent and just not having anything to do with what's happening to human beings. Jesus chose to read from Isaiah 61. Spirit of the Lord is upon me to set at liberty those who are captive. Jesus said his job was to free the oppressed, take care of poor people, and to create a different society. Jesus chose that and said that. So I've got to follow what Jesus says. And I think that's where hope must lie. All people of faith would be true to who they say they are and build coalitions unlike we've ever seen before There is hope that we can turn this thing around, but we can't be silent. We can't be silent.
Madam President, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, sir.
I'm so looking forward to the year that we're going to spend with Reverend Terry Hord Owens over the course of the new year, right here on Mondays in the Faith Not to Fall. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.